If you went on your search engine today and typed in the words, what is the average net worth of a 60-year-old, what you'd get back is 6, maybe even 8 results from well-known companies that are completely different from one another. These answers would range from 5 to 7 figures depending on the source and how you look at the data, and the information would be compounded because some of these sources have a hidden agenda, and that is to show you that you don't have enough saved. Finally, net worth has gone up, significantly up over the last few years, and so if you're looking at the wrong data set, well, you might be looking at something that's outdated, and you might think one thing when it's another. I'm going to cover all of this off and make it crystal clear for you. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
If you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Jeff. I'm a CPA turned author turned public speaker. I'm also the creator of the course Social Security Simplified and a director at the Retirement Ready Academy. I started this channel in 2020, really at the request of my daughter, to help people who couldn't help themselves during a very dark time in our lives. Today, the channel has over 360,000 subscribers, over 60 million views, over 6 million hours of watch time, and we would love it if you join our YouTube family. Please consider joining by clicking subscribe and turning on notifications so that you get alerted the next time we post a video. We post 2 or 3 times a week. It wasn't too long ago that I was talking to a graduate from a course taught at the Retirement Ready Academy, and he came to me and he said, Jeff, I'm having a hard time understanding what a good net worth is for my age. Some information I read on the internet talks about multiples of salary, like 10x my salary, which would be impossible. I'm 60 years old. That is just too much money for me to have. Others talk about dollar amounts, and some of them are low, some of them are high, and I just don't fully understand what I'm looking at, and I was wondering if you could help me help myself. Let me ask you a few questions, I said, because the chances are good that you don't know the answer to at least one of these questions. And if you don't know the answer to all of these questions, you can't really benchmark yourself. And he said, go ahead. The first question is the data a household number or is it an individual number? And he paused for a second and he smiled and he said, I don't know. He said, my wife didn't work, so it could be a household number, but it could also be an individual number because my wife didn't work. If you don't know the answer to that question, I said, it's a bit like making a recipe for dinner and not knowing how many guests are coming by. You're either going to send people home with a lot of leftovers or you're going to send them home hungry. I said, when it comes to financial information, government sources tend to report the information on a household level, and private sector sources tend to report the information on a per person level. So that's a big distinction because you could be off by 100% if you're looking at the data the wrong way. Next, is the data you're looking at the mean, the median, or even the mode? Because it does make a difference. And he said, what's the difference? I said, well, the mean is when you add up the net worth of all of the people in the survey and you divide it by the number of people taking the survey, and the median is the net worth of the person in the exact middle if you stack them from highest to lowest or lowest to highest, and it does make a huge difference. The mean tends to overestimate average because you can have 80% of the respondents come out below average and the answer would still be correct. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Let's just say that there were 5 people in the net worth survey. The person at the top had a net worth of $2 million. He's number 5. The 4th person had a net worth of $300,000. The 3rd person had a net worth of $200,000. The 2nd person had a net worth of $125,000. And the 1st person, the lowest person in the stack, had a net worth of $25,000. If you totaled the net worth of all 5 people, you come up with $2,650,000. Divide that by 5, and the mean net worth is $530,000. Respondents 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all below the average. How could that be? Well, you have number 5 who brings the average way up. Throw in a few billionaires in a real survey, and all of a sudden the mean looks very different than what the middle of the pack looks like. That's called the median. The middle here is $200,000. That's respondent number 3. And if you're respondent number 4, you're feeling like you've done pretty well, And if you're respondent number 2, well, you still have something to aspire to that you can actually hit, potentially anyway. The reality is that these surveys aren't done with 5 people, though. They're done with hundreds of thousands or even millions of people in many cases. So put a lot of zeros in the number of respondents. Now, occasionally we get a question that says something like, well, you've talked about the mathematical average, you've talked about the midpoint, but what is the number that comes up most often? Shouldn't that be part of the discussion? Yes and no, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. It's called the mode. The next question is the information biased? Does it come from a mutual fund company? And is the mutual fund company only pulling the people in the mutual fund company? Because by definition, if you get a questionnaire from the mutual fund company, your 401k provider usually, the people that respond are people with 401ks at that mutual fund company. Yet 40% of working adults in this country don't have any type of retirement plan at all. So if the mutual fund company is only using its own data, there's a good chance they're overestimating the averages, mean and median. And if 40% of the adults in this country don't have any type of retirement plan at all, there's a good chance that they don't have a home to add to net worth. That's a big component of net worth. That's not always the case, but they usually go hand in hand. And now, if that's the case, that group has a net worth of 0. And that's the mode number you're looking at. And with 40% of the adults in this country not having any retirement account at all, you're going to be looking pretty good if you're looking at the mode number as your benchmark. So mode isn't really a good measure for net worth and retirement. So all of a sudden you're starting to get a picture that looks vastly different from one survey provider to another. Finally, where you live makes a difference. Most surveys will break out the information by age. Some will break it out by state, but rarely do you see a survey that breaks out the information by age and state. And that is a huge variable. So if you're reading information or watching a video about information and you're in Hawaii, you're going to be feeling pretty good because the median net worth in Hawaii is $472,000. But if you're sitting in Louisiana, the median net worth is $72,000. Hawaii is almost 7 times larger than Louisiana in terms of the average median net worth per person. Most net worth calculations include the net value of the home, meaning the home value minus the mortgage still on the home. Now, a lot of people will say, but I can't spend the money in my home. Well, you can, but you have to go through some extremes to do it. But if you're going to compare a renter versus a homeowner in retirement, or at least at age 60, well, you have to have a methodology that's consistent for everybody. So what's the answer? Well, there are many sources, but the two that are reasonably close to one another is the Survey of Consumer Finances by the Federal Reserve Board, published in October of 2023, and the Empower Net Worth Survey, published in July of 2025. The Federal Reserve Board ranges it, in fact, most surveys do, from age 55 to 64, and the FRB survey shows a mean net worth of $1,567,000 and a median net worth of $364,500. The Survey of Consumer Finances is the gold standard when you're talking about data, by the way. It's run by the government. There is no bias other than providing you with information and giving the government information more accurately to action. But the only issue I have with the SCF is that it's published only once every 3 years. It takes a lot of time to gather the data. So a survey that was published in 2023 is already several years old when you're looking at a video in 2025 or 2026. And by the way, there was a huge change in the survey from the prior one, which was published in 2020. The 2020 Survey of Consumer Finances showed a mean net worth of $1,363,000 and a median net worth of $246,300. So up 15% and 48% respectively. That's a huge jump over a 3-year period. Now, the other survey we're talking about in this video is the Empower Net Worth Survey, published in July of 2025. And the range that the Empower survey uses is the 60s, so basically from age 60 to age 69. That survey shows a mean net worth of $1,512,799 and a median net worth of $290,865. So a little lower in both the mean and the median compared to the Survey of Consumer Finances. So what can you do with this information? Well, it is going to be somewhat limited because it doesn't represent a lot of things. It doesn't account for things like where you live, your lifestyle and retirement, and literally dozens of variables. So don't obsess over the information. Spend your time trying to improve your specific situation. As the saying goes, you do you. And remember this, you're not a data point. You're a human being and you're important. What you think and how you feel matters. So if this information is useful for you, then use it. If it's not, put it aside and maybe come back to it later. Lastly, I have a free gift for you. It's my Healthcare in Retirement free report. If you're wondering how you're going to pay for healthcare before you reach age 65 and qualify for Medicare, this report is for you. Go to my website at holyschmidt.com/free report and you can download it instantly. You'll also get free tips, tricks, and other information a few times a week by email. If you like this video, check out that video. Here's what you can do at age 62. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.